So, what do you do when you find yourself exhausted? Maybe it's because you're getting a divorce, or maybe because you have lost your job, lost a loved one. Maybe you're a mom, like me, who is exhausted because that's what we think moms need to be, and we're caretaking, or you're caretaking your parents, and you're exhausted from that caretaking. What do you do when you find yourself exhausted? Well, most of us grab counterfeit energy, right? We go, coffee, I need a donut, I need anything to keep going. Who am I? I am a person who's been helping people dare to rest for the last decade. And I have been practicing Yoga Nidra meditation, which is the cornerstone of the Daring to Rest process, the method that I teach. I've been practicing that for the last 14 years. I was a community organizer for about a decade, working with women's groups, mostly in vulnerable communities. And I began to see all the health issues that these women had, all of the deep exhaustion that they carried, and how this was getting in the way of them rising up. And I really felt passion about women's health issues, and so I began to write about it. I began to write articles, I wrote a couple of books about it, and then I found Yoga Nidra meditation, and I thought, oh my gosh, you can sleep your way to better health? Like, this is just too good to be true. So I started offering these 40-day, what I called in the beginning, nap quest for moms. Because for me, Yoga Nidra meditation was a combination of a nap, like the best nap you've ever had, and a vision quest. It was deep. It was a self-discovery process that it opened up this whole world of who you are, the truth of who you are. And I began to lead these 40-day processes, and then I began to invite women to do immersions, 9 months together. I called it the Art of the Well-Rested Woman. And it was beautiful and rich, and women were having incredible breakthroughs. Sleep, obviously, being one, huge one. But the other pieces were just setting boundaries in their lives with people. And slowly, I began to see that this was a method, the way I was working with women, that needed to be written down, because Yoga Nidra meditation, which I'm going to talk a lot about today, is something that is written here and there, but there was never a method for how do we use it in our modern lives. How do we use this ancient yogic sleep tool, which is Yoga Nidra? It is a sleep-based meditation technique. And so I was really determined to use it. I was really determined to help people go from worn out to well-rested, which is what I got from Yoga Nidra meditation. I call people who go through this process of daring to rest well-rested women, well-rested men, well-rested children, because not that you're going to be perfectly well-rested at every moment, because I think that's unrealistic, but there is something in this journey when we walk in so worn out, and then we practice Yoga Nidra meditation, and suddenly we begin to remember what we forgot. We begin to remember who we really are. We begin to sleep better. And so we have better focus. We have clarity. We have all of these pieces that just didn't come together beforehand. And the well-rested woman remembers again and again that rest is a foundation. Rest is just like water and just like food. If you think about it, when in captivity, if they really want to torture somebody, they don't give them food, they don't give them sleep, right? They don't give them water. And that's how we torture people. Rest is a foundation. So when we start saying, oh, well, this isn't working, our sleep isn't working, or this, we have to go back to the foundations. How are we building our house, so to speak? And that's what I became really curious about, because when I saw women go through the 40 days of the nap quest, I saw that, oh my gosh, they were starting to build their foundation. So the well-rested woman is actually an archetype. The well-rested woman is this person who actually can have life fall apart, because life may fall apart. That is the nature of life. But she will not be broken, because when your foundation is strong, you may have, a window fall off. You may have, the breeze may knock a few things down, but you come back much more easily when you have the foundation, and that is rest. Rest is the foundation. So I want to tell you a few stories about how I came to this Yoga Nidra meditation, and really some of the key features that I would love to leave you with tonight. So Yoga Nidra really came to me very unexpectedly. I was a mom of 2 small kids under the age of 2. We were living at the time in Arkansas. My husband had a job there, and I had a community of people that I knew, I loved, but I was exhausted, and I didn't have a lot of support. I wasn't near any family. My husband traveled 5 months of the year, and my oldest son, from the moment he was born, cried for about 1.5 years. Morning, noon, night, even when we held him, even when we took him in the car. Everyone said, take him in the car. No, it didn't work either. He didn't sleep. He screamed. We ate with a vacuum cleaner on for 1 year. That was the only time he would go into a trance, actually. That white noise from the vacuum cleaner would send him into a trance, and we'd be able to eat our meals with him in the vacuum cleaner. So I was just a little bit exhausted when they were both under the age of 2, my 2 boys, and I ended up walking into a supermarket. I had just started going back to work part-time. Just in the mornings, I dropped my boys off. They would have a morning, and then I'd pick them up, and they'd nap at home. But this time, when I went to go pick them up, I decided to stop in the supermarket. And as I'm walking down the supermarket aisle, I start to feel everything start to spin. And everything's spinning. And I remember very vividly needing to hold on to an aisle, because I really felt like I was about to spin away. I didn't know what was happening. I thought I was having a heart attack. And what ended up happening is that a good friend of mine, because my husband was in Africa on a trip, so I had no one to call but my best friend. She came to pick me up, took me to the emergency room. And after lots and lots of tests, they said, you just had a really bad panic attack. That was a panic attack. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not dying. That's a good thing. I'm not dying. But what am I going to do? I mean, I have 2 small kids. My husband is traveling right now. What do I do? And the option they gave me was to go on anti-anxiety medication. And so that's what I did. I actually felt very conflicted over it, but I said, I'm just going to do it for 6 months. I'm just going to do it for 6 months, and then I'm going to be off of it. 3 years later, I was still on the anti-anxiety medication. And this time, my boys were in a preschool, and every time I dropped them off at preschool, I was eyeing this yoga studio, thinking I'm going to go and I'm going to get back into shape, and all of these, dreams of, losing postpartum weight, everything. I eyed the yoga studio for so long, and eventually I went in, and I went to sign up for a yoga class, but I heard this noise, a very gentle, sweet noise of a woman guiding people through Yoga Nidra meditation in the other room. It was a classroom right next to where you sign up. And I literally walked in, and I looked into the door, and there were all these women looking like they were taking the most incredible nap of their lives. And I thought, I want what they got. I don't know what they got, except it looks like the best nap of your life, but I need that. And they had blankets and eye pillows, and they looked so blissed out, and I so wanted that. So even though I was a little bit hesitant to pay for a nap, I thought, who pays for a nap, right? Like, I'm really going to pay to go to sleep. I was so exhausted and desperate, and I signed up right there. And very quickly, I began to feel rested. The first time I knew I was rested was when I got to a stop sign. First of all, I stopped because I wasn't stopping at stop signs. I was just going straight through. I was like a drunk driver. And also, I wasn't going over curbs anymore, because when I turned the car, I'd go over curbs all the time. My kids would go, wee! You know, they thought it was hilarious. I'm realizing that's not right to go over curbs. They didn't know that. They thought they were in a, amusement park or something. But I truly began to wake up. I felt my whole body was rested. I wasn't going over curbs. I wasn't going through stop signs. I was feeling just alive again. I was feeling happy. And slowly, I began, every time I practiced Yoga Nidra, to start to hear these voices. Now, I'm a writer, and I was writing about women's health issues, and I had interviewed 118 women about their birth experiences. And I thought I was writing a book about childbirth. Well, I could not get that book proposal written. I could not figure out how to turn these stories into a book, even though I had written 2 books before. So I just kept plodding away, thinking I'm writing a book. Well, through Yoga Nidra, I began to hear, it's a play. And I was like, it's a play? Again, it's a play. And then, after I would practice Yoga Nidra, I would get into my little minivan, and I would literally grab napkins from the glove compartment to start writing down lines of what's going to be in the play, because I heard that this is a play. And then I told my husband, I'm writing a play. And he's like, you don't know how to write a play. You're writing a play? You can't write a play. And I said, I'm writing a play. I was getting these instructions, and it was definitely coming from rest. It was coming from a place that, honestly, I didn't know where. I just knew I was getting these instructions. So I wrote a play. I wrote a play called Birth. Now the play has been produced in, I think, 73 different cities around the world. It's been translated into 3 languages. And it's raised over $1 million to improve maternity care. And I feel really proud about that. I actually I didn't know that was what I was doing until I got the instructions. And it came through rest. It came through creating my foundation. I then started hearing other instructions. I started hearing, which completely confused me, raw food. And I thought, I don't want to eat raw food. I really don't want to eat raw food. But again, raw food. And then suddenly I realized, oh, okay, raw food. My mother had been telling me about this woman, this raw food woman, an intuitive, I don't even know what you call her, a healer, who lived on the Lower East Side in Manhattan. And everyone, my mother's a school teacher, and everyone in her school, all the teachers were going to this woman, and they were feeling healed. And I thought, well, maybe I'll go see this woman, Amy, because I'm getting raw food. So I make an appointment to see Amy, and that changed my life. Amy was not only someone deeply into raw foods, which I did not go 100% raw food, by the way, I did dabble in it, but she was really more there as my bridge to getting rid of the panic attacks, which I really had, honestly, no intention of doing because I was on the medication and I thought, this is just my destiny. I had actually realized my father had panic attacks for many, many years, my father and his mother. And so I thought, oh, that's my destiny. You know, if it's in my DNA, then I'm going to have panic all the time too. Well, Amy taught me that it's just energy. She used to whisper to me, It's just energy. Every time I felt my body sort of convulsing because I'd get really shaky, she just whispered, it's just energy. Yoga Nidra meditation, the rest, helped lead me to the solution to my anxiety, and I've never had a panic attack since. That was just over a decade ago. So I began to think there's something to this rest. There might be something to this rest. But life gets busy as life does, and I had 2 small kids, and my oldest turned out that he has very severe learning differences. And so I was really consumed with meeting his needs. And as we do, I forgot about Yoga Nidra. I just forgot. Life got busy. And then we went overseas to live. My husband's job took us there. And when we were there, and I write about this in my book, Daring to Rest, we experienced a very violent robbery. And my children were asleep the whole time. But we had a very good friend with us, and she was raped. It was absolutely devastating on every level of my being. We were tied up. We were really terrorized. But we survived. We survived. And the next morning, when we woke up, Rose, my very good friend, she was wearing a shirt that says, Jesus loves me. And I thought, is she kidding me? After what we just went through? And I struggled with that. I struggled with my own self. I struggled with feeling calm again. I had PTSD for 2 years after that. I was afraid of the dark. It happened in the dark. My son had PTSD. And then one day, we were back in the United States. My son was going through a challenging time, and we were suing the school district because we needed to get him services. And I was falling apart. I was falling apart. I mean, from what happened with the robbery, to my son, to having to move to a city where I didn't want to live, I was falling apart. And that night when my husband came home from work, I gave him the children and I said, I've got to just go. I've just got to go. And I drove the minivan to the end of our neighborhood and I sat there and of course there was a raging thunderstorm. And I just cried. I wept so deeply. And when I finished crying, when I really wanted to eat, pray, love it out of my house, my world, I just thought, wherever I go, I need to get out of here. I started to remember rest. Wait a minute. Rest. Rest is the foundation. Rest. I need a nap really badly. I needed a nap, like, really badly. And then I remembered, wait a minute, Yoga Nidra meditation, this was my love. This helped me so much. Why was I not practicing it? How could I have forgot? You know those things like a diet when you lose all that weight and then suddenly you're like, you gain the weight back and it's like, oh, I forgot that actually helped me lose weight when I did that. Well, you just forget these things sometimes. And so I said to myself in my minivan, I said, okay, I'm going to practice every single day Yoga Nidra for 1 year. Every single day. It doesn't matter. My boys were literally cuckoo in terms of active. They were super active boys. I thought, I don't know how I'm going to do this, how I'm going to tell them mommy's napping and not be disturbed, but I'm going to do it. And I got home and I walked in the door. I told my husband I'm napping for a year. And And he said, okay, honey, anything you want. He truly was on board with anything at that point because he could see I was falling apart. I had acne all over my face. They called it rosacea, but I had the pimply rosacea all over. I was so stressed. And for good reason. Like, we all have a laundry list of why we're stressed. Like, we have good reasons. It's not that we don't have good reasons. But I wasn't resting. So if you're active, the activity, the going, you have to balance it with the opposite, the non-active, and we forget. So I was like, okay, every single day. So I did for 40 days. I didn't do a year, but I did 40 days of rest, and it was transformational. I could not believe it. Literally, we were suing the school district, as I mentioned, and I walked into a meeting with the school district and our lawyer, and she asked me if I had gotten a facelift. She literally said to me, I thought that was pretty bold of her to ask that. But she said, you look like you got a facelift. And I didn't tell her Yoga Nidra because I thought, oh, she's going to think I'm really woo-woo. But I knew, and that's all that matters, because you don't have to advertise this, you just have to practice it. You just have to be it. You don't need to go preach it, you just be it. People see, people know. People get curious. And so I just started practicing, and I had the 40 days, and I was so transformed that I said, I want to teach this to people. I want to teach this to every single person. And I got trained in Yoga Nidra meditation. I then went and this is when I started my nap quest for moms. And I saw how transformational it was for all these women. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is incredible. But I never want to do it as a business. I mean, who does rest as a business? Right? I mean, rest as a business? That's so odd. No, I'm not going to do that. But then my husband came back from one of his trips, and we didn't know what was wrong with him. We went to the hospital 3 times. He then got admitted. And it turns out he had malaria from one of his trips. We didn't know this at the time. It took a long time before the hospital could figure it out. He actually tested negative twice for malaria before we figured it out. So as he's getting worse and worse, literally with malaria, when the fever goes high, you start shaking. You have almost like convulsions. I was 24/7. My mother was with my kids 24/7 in the hospital with him every night, Yoga Nidra, in a chair. And I was okay. My husband was falling apart. And then I realized, wait a minute, let me give him some Yoga Nidra. But actually, I mean, he didn't really meditate. He sometimes used Yoga Nidra at work. He liked it right before lunch because he said it helped him in the afternoon feel more rested. But I gave him Yoga Nidra meditation, and he suddenly looked so calm, so relaxed. He was looking better and better. The nurses were really curious. His roommate in the hospital room, he came in with lots of bronchial problems. And his wife then says to me, can you give him some of this Yoga Nidra, whatever that is? So we put it on her phone, give it to him, and suddenly, and he had been in the hospital for over a week with these bronchial problems, could not get rid of it. They have him on every medication. Suddenly, within 24 hours, he's out of the hospital and he's breathing fine. And the nurses then want the Yoga Nidra. And suddenly I say, I've got a business. This is a business. Because rest is a foundation, and we all need rest. And so today, when I'm talking to you about this, I want to transition to explain to you what Yoga Nidra meditation is, because this is rest medicine. This is what I call rest medicine. Yoga Nidra is a sleep-based meditation technique. So what that means is, if you've meditated before, you may know in meditation, most meditation, you are in a waking state when you meditate. So you're beta brain. You follow a mantra, you follow your breath, and you sit very still often, and you're in your waking state throughout it. You can be guided, or it could just be quiet, and you'll be meditating. That's most meditation. And I meditated, by the way, since I was 22, so over 25 years I've been meditating. I knew meditation very well. Yoga Nidra is like meditation with a cherry on top, okay? Because, well, number one, you can lie down, although you can sit as well. You lie down, and when you practice Yoga Nidra, you go from the waking state to the dreaming state to the deep sleep state. And then, and this is where I say, here's the cherry. The cherry is you get taken to a fourth state of consciousness known as Turiya. It is a place where you literally power down to zero. Your thoughts go down to zero. So imagine how restorative that is. Because what gets in our way most of the time are thoughts. That's the stress, is like the loop of thoughts. And once you power down to zero, you get out of your own way. And your organs can start to regenerate. Literally, the brain waves that you go into in Yoga Nidra meditation are very similar to almost like a coma. And I don't want to say that to scare anyone, but I'm saying that more because why do we go into a coma? We go into a coma to reboot. Some people can, some people can't, but sometimes they induce comas so that people's bodies can rest. So Yoga Nidra gives us that sleep. It literally trains the body to sleep. I didn't understand why more people don't know about this ancient yogic sleep tool, because we're not sleeping in our culture. So we need this. You can literally relearn how to sleep. Yoga Nidra teaches you, and it does this by going through 5 bodies of awareness. So in yoga, we think of the body not just as a physical body, but we think of the body as 5 bodies. You have 5 layers, and they conceal the soul. In Yoga Nidra, we are taken through this map to clean the 5 bodies. So you first are taken through the physical body, and we rotate attention. It's a guided meditation, Yoga Nidra. So we rotate attention through the physical body, usually by body sensing the different parts of the body, releasing energy from the different parts, allowing you to start flowing again. And then you clean the energy body, and the energy body is, usually through breath work. You begin, again, this gets the flow going. This begins, you've grounded down with the physical body, then you begin to get the body flowing again when you clean the energy body. And then you go into the mental body. And the mental body, that's when, this is the one that usually many of us have to clean really well, because this is where we have a lot of our thoughts, our habits, our patterns that really weigh a lot of us down. The imprints, they call them samskaras in yoga. It's a Sanskrit word that means imprints. And these imprints are what we think we are when our ego is in the way, when we feel separate from. But once we begin to shine awareness on all these bodies, but particularly the mental body, the imprints start to fade. They start to dissolve. And we start to begin to see the possibility that we can be something different. We can be our best self. And then we enter the wisdom body. The wisdom body is the 4th layer. And that 4th layer is when you become the witness of your life. You begin to not take everything so personally. You take a step back and you see, oh, okay, yeah, that is me, but I'm also not that. I am that, and I'm not that. And by loosening that, you begin to live in this and both. So usually in life, we think of things as either or. Either I'm this or I'm that. Either I'm afraid or I'm not afraid. But what happens if you are both? If you're both, then you can live more peacefully, accepting that, oh, okay, both reside in me, and it's okay. It's okay. I talk about this a lot, the next body in my book, when I talked about, I do write about the robbery that happened to us. I talk about this final fifth body, the Bliss Body. And it's interesting that I write about the robbery in the Bliss Body. Like bliss, robbery, it doesn't seem to go together, right? But actually, there's a deep teaching here, because in the Bliss Body, this is the time when we completely are able to, we're able to know that everything's going to be okay. And that was the t-shirt that my friend Rose wore that morning. Jesus loves me. Yoga Nidra, when we get to the Bliss Body, Yogi Amrit Desai likes to say, you get downloaded the phone number, the email address of God. You get it all. You get the whole download. You're plugged in, whether you call it God, the divine, whatever you call it, you know the universe has your back. And when we experience trauma, we forget this. We feel that we're falling all the time. The moment you know that it's okay, it's going to be okay, you begin to program back to wholeness, program back to bliss. People who've had trauma can't always get straight to bliss, right? It takes a little while to get there. But just knowing everything's going to be okay is a huge paradigm shift for a lot of people, because when we're fearful, when we live in fear, when we have anxiety, we don't think things are going to be okay. And it's huge. So Yoga Nidra takes us through these stages, these 5 bodies of awareness, and we rotate attention through these 5 bodies each time in Yoga Nidra, and you go deeper and deeper into brainwaves. You go to sleep with a trace of awareness. Yoga Nidra is sleep with a trace of awareness. That's what it is. So it's meditation, and you get all the benefits of meditation, and you get the benefits of sleep. And for a lot of people who don't get deep sleep, and many of us don't nowadays, it gives you that deep sleep. I always say, especially for new moms, I feel Yoga Nidra meditation is critical, because that is a time in life where you really can't get the sleep that you need. Even if you're a good sleeper, often you can't get enough sleep just because a baby wakes you up, and that's what happens. You have to keep going. So 45 minutes of Yoga Nidra feels like 3 hours of sleep in the body. I know for me, that got me to lie down. I was like getting bang for your buck, so to speak. I'm deeply in tune with this map all the time, because it resembles a few things that I want to leave you with tonight. The point of what I hope you will leave recognizing is that, first of all, rest is a foundation. Rest is a foundation. But this Yoga Nidra map and the stories that I've told you talks about 3 layers of exhaustion. We think of exhaustion as just physical exhaustion, but actually there are these layers. And when you move through these 5 bodies of awareness, you touch on these different layers of exhaustion that exist. You touch on the physical exhaustion, but you also touch on the emotional and mental exhaustion. And you touch on what I like to call life purpose exhaustion, whether you're following your calling. And that doesn't necessarily mean a job. That just means you're doing what you're put here to do on earth. Many of us we feel tired when we're not feeling like we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. And you can't hear any of those instructions if you don't lie down and rest. So when you lie down and rest, you hear the instructions. The 3 layers of exhaustion, the physical exhaustion, I like to call the rest phase. We all need rest. And this when I have women practice 40 days of Yoga Nidra meditation, first we rest. It's all rest, really. But first we focus on grounding ourselves. We focus on all of the pieces that help revive the physical body to take that layer of exhaustion off. Then we start to work on what we need to release, what I call the release phase, the mental, the physical pieces, the mental and emotional pieces. That could be boundaries that you need to create. That could be needing to release. Everyone has something different. And then we go into the rise piece. And the rise piece is critical because our souls ask us to both be and become. When we're exhausted, we just want to rest. Like we just need rest. But actually, the soul calls us for the rest, the being, and the striving, the becoming. If we don't touch on both, if we don't live both, the and both, we feel out of alignment. So when I talk about resting, releasing, and rising, these three phases are really critical to touch on, and we do that in different ways in Daring to Rest, but Yoga Nidra just does it when you lie down. You almost don't need to do anything else because you're getting the rest all the time, you're getting the release, and you're getting the rise. You're starting to get the instructions, like I got the instructions. People say, oh, Yoga Nidra meditation helped you stop having panic attacks. And I say, well, let's take a step back. Yoga Nidra meditation helped me to find the solution to my anxiety. It wasn't the solution. It helped me. It led me to the solution. But we have to listen for the instructions. And I call those soul whispers. I call those soul whispers in my book, Daring to Rest, because women are always getting them. Sometimes very intuitive people, just who are naturally intuitive, get them outside of Yoga Nidra all the time. But when we practice Yoga Nidra, we can hear them. So before we experience some Yoga Nidra, because I really would love to experience you all to experience it and also to ask me some questions, I want to just talk, just say a final little bit. I have a great sleep doctor that I love. His name is Dr. Ruben Nyman. And I've interviewed him many times. And he talks about thinking of your life as these three questions, which is what we ask when we have a baby, a newborn. Are you sleeping? That's the rest. Are you getting the rest you need? Are you pooping? Are you releasing? Are you developmentally progressing? Are you rising? We ask this all the time of newborns. We do, right? Why don't we ask it of ourselves? This is how we can check in. And further check in the way I started, which is with what kind of car are you? Do you know what kind of car you feel like right now? Do you feel like you're out of gas? Do you feel like you're falling apart? These metaphors with cars are really instructive. We often talk about ourselves like a car. So the key when we begin to dare to rest is to hear the instructions, but even before that, to recognize that we are exhausted. So ask yourself, what kind of car am I today? And you'll start to tune into that level of exhaustion. I used to say, I'm fine. I'm fine. Oh, I'm fine. I said that when I was getting panic attacks and ended up going into the hospital. I'm fine. And even after I got on my medication, I'm fine. No, I never checked in with, what kind of car am I? I was worn out of gas. I was all of it. But I would just say, I'm fine. And fine is usually a code word for I'm not so fine. So I'm going to invite you all to dare to rest now, and then I'll take questions. Thank you. Just begin to quiet your mind. Be still. Say to yourself mentally, I will not fall asleep. I will remain awake. Let's take a deep breath in and exhale with a deep sigh. Just letting go. And again, one more breath in and exhaling, letting go. allow any sounds to just be the background noise. You'll find the peace, the quiet, the silence in your heart as we begin. Starting with an intention, repeat to yourself 3 times, either an intention you have or I am well rested as an intention. Just repeat that 3 times. Now we'll begin to rotate attention throughout the body. As I name a body part, allow any unblocked energy to release from that area. Starting at the base of the throat, right shoulder, right elbow, right wrist, right hand, palm of the hand, wrist, right elbow, right shoulder, left shoulder, left elbow, left wrist, left hand, palm of the left hand, left wrist, left elbow, left shoulder, middle of the chest, right side of the chest, middle of the chest, left side of the chest, middle of the chest, navel point, middle of the pelvis, right hip, right knee, right ankle, right foot, right ankle, right knee, right hip, left hip, left knee, left ankle, left foot, left ankle, left knee, left hip, middle of the pelvis, navel point, middle of the chest, base of the throat, back of the neck, the whole head, and now come to the eyebrow center, the space between the eyebrows, and rest here for a moment. Notice all sensation in the body. If you have thoughts that are moving through your mind, just allow them to move through like a cloud in the sky. Slowly notice your breath, breathing in and out at your own pace. Awareness of the breath. Aware of breathing in and out. On your next breath in, breathe all the way up to the top of your neck. And as you exhale, purse your lips like you're blowing through a straw, and exhale like you're blowing through a straw, slowly. When you inhale again, inhale and fill your heart with joy. Exhaling through pursed lips like you're blowing through a straw. Just continue this breath on your own, at your own pace, several times. Now stop, come to the space between your eyebrows and rest here. Notice all feelings in the body, sensations. And now slowly begin to feel your body warm, starting at your feet. The feet warm, moving up your legs. You're feeling the sensation of warmth, like the sun beating down on you. As you feel warmth through your torso, your hands and arms, shoulders warm, your neck and head, your whole body warm. And now your whole body cold. Feel your whole body cold, beginning in your feet, like you're laying in the snow. Your body cold. The cold moving all the way up both legs, hips, pelvis, torso. Arms and hands cold, shoulders, your neck and throat cold, your head cold, your whole body shivering cold. Feel your body cold. And now with the breath, sense your body both hot and cold. Just notice how you feel when you merge both sensations of hot and cold. Now come to the space between your eyebrows. Allow all tension to release from your body. Release any fear, apprehension, anxiety. Allow your body just to be. Total presence. Now repeat the intention I am while rested, or any intention you have, 3 times. Feel this intention going into every cell and atom of your whole being. Know that when you rise from Yoga Nidra, your intention can be manifested. Now repeat the following affirmation. I am in harmony. Feel this. Begin to breathe in and out through your heart, like heart breathing. You may want to visualize your heart and then notice yourself breathing in and out through your heart. A smile emanating from your heart. Notice that smile begin to spread throughout your body. On your next breath in through the heart, follow your breath and see where it leads you in your body. And just notice if there's an image, a word, or a phrase. Just receive whatever is there, and if it's nothing, that's okay. Nothing is something. Whatever you receive, exhale this through your heart. This is your soul whisper. Now slowly, beginning to wake up, just keeping your eyes closed. You can wiggle your toes, your fingers, any place in your body that just wants to move. Just allow yourself to begin to wake up. Your eyes closed, staying in this deep peace. Notice how soft the breath is, how silent the mind is. How quiet the heartbeat is. Yoga Nidra is a service of love that we give to ourselves and all others. It mentors us into an understanding of our true selves, and it shows us that when we serve ourselves, we serve all others. When we serve others, we serve ourselves. This completes the practice of Yoga Nidra. Be good to yourself.
So I've tried meditation before bed, and I fall asleep within 30 seconds most times. It kind of depends unless I have a hard time sleeping.
Yeah.
Would you still find this effective, and do you think part of you is still listening to it up until some point, or would you recommend trying to do it more often during the day too, instead of just falling asleep right away?
Yeah, that's a great question. In Yoga Nidra, there's a part of you that's always awake. So you will always benefit because I'm speaking to your subconscious mind, and it will hear me no matter what. Is it better to be more awake? Yeah, it is. Some people practice Yoga Nidra when they are going to sleep, and in that case, if the intention is to sleep, then that's fine. It's a great practice to fall back to sleep. People use it in the middle of the night when they're people who are early morning wakers and things like that. That's absolutely great. But if your intention is to not fall asleep and you want to really be awake for the meditation, you will, I don't want to say you won't benefit at all before, but you will benefit more because when you have this trace of awareness, you're able to really process the intention that you're setting and all of those pieces. You won't be repeating the intention if you're completely asleep. But a lot of people think they're asleep with Yoga Nidra but aren't. I mean, you may be, and especially if you do it before bedtime, and it may just be best to try a better time. But a lot of people think they are. But if you wake at the end, when I actually, at the end I say, be good to yourself, and I ring the bell, and this is Yoga Nidra's ending, people will wake up then and they'll say, oh, I was asleep the whole time. But actually, they really went into a deep state of meditation. So it's very common to not hear my voice even throughout the Yoga Nidra, to actually go so deep. Like in a coma, you can kind of hear voices and then you don't hear a voice, and then you hear it and you don't hear it. You're kind of in and out. And that's not uncommon. And you usually, that means you haven't fallen asleep. But I would say that if you're doing it and you're just conking out in 30 seconds, then yeah, to get the most benefit, you'd probably want to do it at a different time. I always say the best times are usually bookends of the day because it's when we remember. It's like brushing our teeth. I used to never think I'd want to do it in the morning, and I actually practice a lot in the morning now. I feel the most awake and aware in the morning. But when my kids were young, I used to do it before dinner time. And I trained them. I had a sign, Mommies napping. And if the sign was up, they were not to come in. Now, when they were really little, they actually would come in and ring the bell. It was very cute. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, Yoga Nidra it's going to be helpful no matter what, even if you fall asleep. Yeah.
This really isn't to help us go to sleep then. It's called Yoga Nidra sleep meditation, but it's a meditation, not a method of falling asleep.
Well, that's a great
sleep aid.
Yeah, well, it does help you fall asleep, so you can use it like that, and you get all the same benefits. But it is definitely, yoga, as everyone knows, who practice yoga, it means union or yoke, coming together. But the Nidra is a Sanskrit word meaning sleep, and it's called the sleep of the yogi. And it is I don't want to say it's a technique to fall asleep to, but it helps people sleep. I can't tell you, I probably get 5 or so emails a week from people who are practicing Yoga Nidra through my book, Daring to Rest. It's telling me they had insomnia 20 years and they know now they sleep. So yeah, I mean, it's very effective for sleep. I'm surprised it's not more widely known, to be honest. I think every sleep school, every place that has like a sleep clinic should be teaching Yoga Nidra to people, honestly, way before they take a pill. But people who have insomnia, I do tell them usually not too late in the, like 5 or later, I would not practice Yoga Nidra, because if you have trouble falling asleep, it's probably best not to practice that late in the day, because you either practice before you go to sleep and just let it take you off to sleep. That's okay. Or practice earlier in the day and it will benefit you. Yeah.
Hi.
Hey.
That was a lovely talk, though. Thank you for that. You mentioned that this is a guided meditation. Does your book include the meditations that you would provide?
Yes.
And more than what you just showed us today?
Oh, you went through all of them. Yeah, I took you through all of them. So, I mean, I can dissect it all for you if you want, but we went through all of the 5 bodies. You know, the first rotating attention when I said your right shoulder, right elbow, wrist, that's the physical body. The breathing when we pursed our lips like we're blowing through a straw, that's the energy body. The mental body is actually going hot and cold when you're holding opposites. It's fascinating, actually. In fact, it's the breakthrough for many people with anxiety when their bodies can viscerally feel the one piece. Right, we just did hot and cold, but we could do fear and trust, or we could do those two. And you hold those two, and what you begin to have this visceral understanding that you can release just the fear, because you don't have to just be in fear. You can actually, when you hold both, they release, and you come to this place of oneness. So that's the mental body. And then we went into the wisdom body, and the wisdom body is basically when you start to, when I had you be a witness to things like, I'm trying to think of what I said. Sometimes I go into a bit of Yoga Nidra myself. People ask me, oh, can I get that on tape? And I don't know what I said, because I literally just say it. But we went through the wisdom body, and then the bliss body is, your heart. And then we saw, the smile through your heart. That's the bliss body. And then we did a very abbreviated version of things. A lot of times I'd love to do guided visualization as well for the wisdom body. So you're seeing yourself, let's say, walking on a beach in sand, and you're by the ocean, and maybe you go up to, a fire pit, and you have a deep healing there. Well, there is that in the book. So the book has the meditations in the back, and also a link to go get them downloaded with my voice. So it's actually a book in 3 meditations, because on page 27 of the book, there's a link that you can go download those meditations that are written in the back of the book.
And excuse me, please. Karen, the CDs, is that a recording?
So there's also an audio program as well.
Right.
So that's a 40-day experience that I guide you through. It's based on the book, and it's all the rest, release, rise phases, and we go through all 5 bodies. But there's 8 meditations with that. Because if you read the book, you'll see that you go 5 days in one body, cleaning the physical body, and I give you other practices, additional practices to do, because the physical body is all about grounding. So we do a lot of these are additional things you can or can't do. If you just do Yoga Nidra, you're going to get super great benefits, especially for sleep and all of those pieces. But Daring to Rest is also a self-discovery program, because Yoga Nidra, it's like nap therapy. Honestly, it's just phenomenal to begin to just feel more whole in your life and healthy. Is it more effective if you lie down? No. No, actually, people love lying down because it's super delicious and who doesn't want to lie down? But some people don't want to lie down, actually. And I find that when I've worked with seniors, a lot of times they want to sit. Also, pregnant women, there's times in the pregnancy where it's really not comfortable. You don't have to just lie on your back. You can actually lie on your side. You can just be comfortable. That's the point. I've had people tell me, Yoga Nidra teachers, that they practice standing. And I don't think I'd want to do that, but you could. You know? You could. Yeah.
Could you say a little bit more? On your website, there's a program that you can, enroll in, kind of, that you give at home. What's the format of that? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Are you referring to the 21-day program?
I think so.
Yeah. There's a 21-day program on my website. That's, you get a 15-minute Yoga Nidra meditation each day for 21 days. So it gets delivered to your inbox by email. And there's a little bit of a teaching by me about Yoga Nidra. So if you're new, you'll learn something there. There are a couple of audios to listen to that tell you what is Yoga Nidra, things like that. But you'll get mostly a Yoga Nidra every day. And for 21 days to practice, the 40-day program is very powerful, but 21 days is a little more practical for people, especially when they begin. You might want to start with 21 days. It's and I would say that I wrote the book for women because I'm really concerned about women's health. But it doesn't exclude men. My husband dares to rest all the time. And I have a lot of things like the 21 day on the website. That's for men and women. There's nothing specific about it for women. So it's geared toward everyone. And it's great to do as a couple, by the way. I must say, my husband and I, each weekend, pretty much every weekend, we dare to rest together. And it's beautiful because you feel more kind toward each other. All of these pieces that, are just, sometimes it's hard to communicate when life gets hectic, but suddenly you both stop and go, oh, you. Right, I live with you. It's really nice.
Are there certain countries or cultures that practice this on a regular basis as a whole?
Well, because it comes from India, yes. I mean, it's practiced more there. But bringing it to the West, it's starting to gain in popularity here in the United States. I'm really excited. Actually, on Saturday, there's a Chicago Tribune writer that's going to be there and going to write about it, which is great. And it was written in the Boston Globe. There was a piece as well, and a while ago. But it's exciting that actually I wrote something for Mind Body Green magazine a few months ago, and the editor there said to me, "Rest is going to be the new yoga." That everyone is gravitating to because yoga is too active. There's certain types of yoga. Yin yoga is becoming very popular. Notice you see more of those classes because everybody wants something quiet and gentle and less active. So the United States, it's happening. You'll see it in the UK. There's a lot of Yoga Nidra there. There's definitely pockets, but certainly India is really the biggest place I would say you'd find Yoga Nidra. People would know about it more. Yeah.
My friend isn't sleeping at all, and I told her I was coming to this, and she said, well, do I have to know how to do yoga poses?
Oh, that's a great question, and absolutely no. In fact, that to me is the problem with the name Yoga Nidra. And we talked about whether to call it that on the front of the book, even because people think, yoga? I don't do yoga. But no, there's no yoga poses, it's no asanas, nothing bendy, stretchy, nothing. Yeah, because our nervous systems really need this. They really do. We have to learn how to do nothing. It's an art. And we've lost that art, and Yoga Nidra reteaches us this.